Hey everyone, and welcome back to another explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating chapter from sociology, all about understanding social institutions. Now, I want you to just take a second and look around you. On the surface, it kind of seems like we're all just walking around making totally independent choices, acting entirely on our own free will, right? But what if I told you there's actually this invisible matrix of rules that silently governs almost every single aspect of your daily behavior? Seriously, it's everywhere. Today, we're going to make the invisible visible. Let's decode the social institutions that are constantly shaping our lives. Okay, let's dive right in by challenging a core assumption that, honestly, most of us hold pretty dear: the assumption of total free will. The sociology we're exploring today uses this brilliant analogy. Think about the roles you play in life. Maybe you're a student, a child, a citizen, an employee. Are these simply parts you actively chose, like a film actor opting in or out of a movie script? Can you just walk off the set whenever you feel like it? Well, the sociological answer is a hard no. You didn't just pick these roles out of thin air. You actually stepped into a pre-existing web, a massive, complex structure that was here long, long before you arrived. So, to make this complex chapter crystal clear, here is our roadmap for today. We'll hit defining institutions, look at the functionalist versus conflict perspectives, explore family and marriage, touch on the secret realm, and finally wrap up with education. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Defining Social Institutions, the Invisible Rules. The absolute most crucial starting point here is the definition itself. In the broadest sense, a social institution is something that operates according to established rules. And that means whether those are formal laws on the books or just informal customs we all kind of agree on. But pay really close attention to the end of that definition. Institutions aren't just invisible barriers meant to trap you. They constrain and control us, yes, they definitely punish and reward, but they simultaneously provide us with opportunities. Think about your workplace or even how social media is structured. The platform absolutely constrains what you can post or how long your video can be, but those exact same rules provide the opportunity to reach a massive audience. A school heavily constrains your time, but it provides the opportunity to get an education. It's a two-way street. To make sense of all this, sociologists love to organize the world into two main buckets: formal and informal. It gives us a really clear mental map of society structure. So informal institutions, like the family or religion, these arise completely organically to satisfy basic social needs. They just feel natural to us. Formal institutions, on the other hand, like the legal system or formal education, operate via strict established laws and documented rules. Now, you might feel the weight of a formal institution a lot more directly, but make no mistake, both types are constantly exerting a profound influence over us, totally shaping what we view as normal or acceptable on a daily basis. Moving right along to Section 2, Two Sociological Perspectives, Views on Institutions. There is this constant, ongoing tug-of-war in sociological thought between two radically different views on why these institutions even exist in the first place. First, you have the functionalist view. This perspective sees institutions as a complex set of norms and values that exist simply to satisfy general social needs. It's a very cooperative, harmonious view of society. Basically, everyone has a part to play to keep the giant machine running smoothly. But then you have the conflict view, and this view argues that society is absolutely not on a level playing field. It holds that all social institutions, familial, religious, political, they all operate in the interest of the dominant sections of society, whether that's based on class, caste, or gender. Under this lens, the ruling class ensures that their ideas become the ruling ideas of a society. They literally use institutions to maintain their own power. Keep this tension in the back of your mind as we look at some specific institutions around us. Next up is Section 3, Family and Marriage, the micro-institution. We tend to think of the family as this purely natural or unchanging thing. After all, it feels like the most personal, micro-level part of our entire lives. But sociological research highlights a fascinating truth. The family is actually inextricably linked to massive macroeconomic and political spheres. Think about how massive public shifts, like sudden crazy inflation, a brutal housing market, or the global transition to remote work, are completely reshaping modern families right now. They're delaying when people decide to have kids or forcing multiple generations to live under one roof. Field research across different cultures proves that while family is a universal institution, its actual character is constantly mutating based on the public world swirling around it. To really put this into perspective, let's look at a concrete, real-world example of this in action: German unification. When Germany unified, the new state rapidly withdrew a lot of protections and welfare schemes that were previously provided to families in the East. And what happened next is just incredible. This massive macro-political shift created a sudden, deep sense of economic insecurity. The unintended consequence? People responded by simply refusing to marry. Marriage rates just absolutely plummeted. This brilliantly proves that a huge political event at the state level can literally put the brakes on micro-level, deeply personal choices. We absolutely do not exist in a vacuum. All right, shifting gears to Section 4, the realm of religion, the sacred versus the profane. Following the legendary sociologist Emil Durkheim, we're introduced to this concept of the sacred realm. Society constantly distinguishes the sacred from the profane, which, by the way, just means the everyday, mundane world. Think about what people do right before entering a religious space. They might cover or uncover their heads, take off their shoes, lower their voices. These actions aren't just polite little habits, they are a profound physical recognition of the sacred. It's a culturally mandated feeling of awe and respect that signals to everyone around you that you have officially left the ordinary world behind. But here is where it gets really interesting. The sacred doesn't actually always require a god or a supernatural force. Now, while a lot of religions associate the sacred with supernatural forces behind a temple or maybe a sacred tree, early Buddhism and Confucianism had no conception of the supernatural in that exact same way. Yet, they still allowed for profound, deep reverence for things, texts, and persons considered sacred. The institution of religion is ultimately about how a society culturally enforces that reverence. It's about separating the special from the mundane, which ties us right back to those informal societal rules we were talking about earlier. And finally, let's dive into Section 5, Education, Formal Socialization. Let's take a hard look at formal education. Returning to that conflict perspective we discussed earlier, we're reminded that opportunities within institutions are very rarely distributed equally. For instance, the Pratici report, which is a well-known sociological study, heavily indicates how deeply gender and caste discrimination restrict a person's chances for education. This is literally the conflict view in action. It shows us that formal institutions do not automatically serve a general social need equally for everyone. Instead, they frequently mirror, enforce, and actually perpetuate the inequalities of the dominant society. And you know what? This intense socialization starts incredibly early. Walk through this fascinating kindergarten study with me. It shows what children are actually learning just beneath the surface. Step 1. They learned that work is more important than play. Step 2. Work is strictly defined as anything and everything directed by the teacher. Step 3. Work is absolutely compulsory while free time is just categorized as play. The hidden curriculum of schooling is teaching us the strict division of labor, obedience to authority, and our future societal roles from the exact moment we enter a classroom. Long before we learn math or reading, we are being actively molded by the institution to be compliant workers. So what does this all mean for us? We return to where we began. We've explored how family, religion, and education silently constrain us, reward us, and socialize us literally from day one. So I want to leave you with a provocative final thought directly from the chapter to ponder. After seeing how deeply you are shaped by these massive societal structures, are you entirely controlled by these invisible rules? Or, unlike a film actor forced to stick to a script, can you actually resist and redefine the social institutions around you? Think about your own agency in this vast societal matrix. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning those invisible rules around you.